Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here. Locked on Big 12 podcast. Today it is the 23rd of May, 2022. And on today's show, we'll have our Monday mailbag. Some questions about Big 12 expansion. Is it possible the Big 12 could be adding some more teams? They lose some more teams. We'll touch on that. Could the Big 12 also have a Friday Night Lights type game every single week in the conference? Thoughts on that. And also, some Big 12 awards competitors for the football season in 2022. All that and more coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, Josh Neighbors here, everybody on the Locked On Big 12 podcast. A whole lot going on right now on the channel. I want to alert you all to a couple of things. Number one, if you guys go to our YouTube page, you'll be able to find all of our content. And also, you can find our polls. And also, that's where we solicit a lot of our questions for our Monday mailbags. That's where you can find that going on. Once again, find that over at YouTube. Also, you guys can find us on Twitter at LOBig12 is where you guys can find us. Find me at Josh Neighbors _. Find the show wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. There are some openings here at Big 12. If you guys are interested in some of the Locked On Big 12 shows. We do not have hosts for Oklahoma State, for Kansas State, for Kansas, Iowa State, and West Virginia. Once again, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State, and West Virginia. There are no Big 12 hosts for those schools. We'd love to have you all. If you guys are interested, you guys can contact me. You guys can find me on Twitter. And you guys, I'll get you all in contact so you guys can maybe, potentially host those podcasts if somebody's out there is inclined. Also, for new Big 12 schools, we do have podcasts for BYU and Cincinnati if you want to check those out. Or check out any of the other ones that we have, the current Big 12 schools, but we do not have a podcast for UCF. We don't have a podcast for Houston. So those are available if you are interested in doing so. Also, I have to mention y'all this weekend on the Diamond. I really have not been good about mentioning stuff. I want to mention you here. 3 Big 12 schools are into the super regionals in college softball. Oklahoma State, and Texas. All 3 of them, the only 3 Big 12 teams in the tournament, but all 3 of those schools make it out of their regional and make it to the super regional this week. So that's exciting on that front. We always have to mention that. The one team that has to go on the road, though, is Texas. They will go to Arkansas. On the Big 12 baseball side, TCU is your regular season champion. Guys, if you were not paying attention to this title race down the stretch, this thing got chaotic and weird, and it was fun. It looked like Oklahoma State was in the driver's seat for the championship. They got swept by Texas Tech. Then Texas Tech needed to win some games to retain kind of that position. Well, they lost their first game to Oklahoma, which meant TCU secured a share of the title. They lost their second game to Oklahoma, which means TCU could not be caught by Texas Tech. The only other team that could catch them was Oklahoma, who needed to sweep Texas Tech and couldn't do it. So TCU got the outright title. But that thing in the last week and a half of the season, hot potatoed between teams like nobody's business. Oklahoma State, then Texas Tech, then TCU with a shot for OU. So look out, folks. This week, Globe Life Field's going to be a lot of fun. Big 12 baseball tournament coming your all's way. All right, Monday mailbag here coming up after one quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you all by Built Bar. Go to built.com today. That's built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com today. New flavors all the time, all delicious, all covered in chocolate. Why would you go anywhere else? Built.com today. Promo code LOCK15. All right, friends. So Chris Stewart sent us a question on YouTube about Big 12 expansion. He said, is the Big 12 done expanding? / retracting or losing teams. Subtraction, I believe, is the word that Chris used. If you say subtraction, I would say no way. The Big 12 is going to do its damnedest to keep all of the teams they've got now in the league. And I think after OU and Texas left, there's a bit more of a cognizance about kind of the situation. I think whoever the new commissioner of the Big 12 is, and look, I know as much as you guys know, as much as everybody else knows about who that's going to be at this moment in time. We really just don't know who the next Big 12 commissioner is going to be. But I'll tell you this. That is going to be a big part of it. I think there's going to be a certain amount of checking up on the teams, talking to commissioners, talking to presidents, talking to ADs and commissioners, between all of them, I should say. And there's going to be a lot more checking up on each other, making sure everybody is happy and content and feels okay about their situation, is not overly concerned about some other things. I think that is going to be a critical part of whoever is the next Big 12 commissioner. It's going to be a whole lot of, okay, let's make sure that everybody is happy and knows where they're at, and everybody is abreast of the situation. And I know your situation. Communication, I think, for the new Big 12 is going to be key. The only rumor that we ever heard was when it was about Kansas, and I think this was never really substantiated, at least from the people we talked to. You guys know Jesse Newell. Shout out to Jesse Newell covering now the Kansas City Chiefs. We were never really meant to believe that at all. I know it was kind of fodder about KU joining the Big Ten, but it's not really going to happen. So not too many worries in that front. But yeah, so that was kind of the one scare we had, right, in the conference was, well, I guess scare, not really a scare, but like one situation where we heard some rumblings that never really came to fruition. So I had some ideas, and let's talk about the Power 5 schools right now. All right. So I don't know what the outs are for the Pac-12. Okay. But their new TV contract is coming up next year. I think they'll be negotiating next year, I think, for 24. So, maybe the idea of a Colorado coming and joining the conference is there. Like, it's not completely laughable, right? In Arizona State, but you'd think that with their position in the Pac-12, now look, I know the Pac-12 South's really good. You'd think maybe, just maybe, they probably want to stay, right? You think probably the next contract that the Pac-12 is going to sign for football or for all their sports, is going to be semi-lucrative, and it might be several directions. Now, once again, we know George Kliavkoff has publicly shared a desire for his conference to be heavily involved in linear cable. That was something that he made crystal clear during interviews that you've heard him. He thinks the next couple television contracts for a lot of these conferences are going to be through linear cable. CBS, Fox, ABC, the Mouse, ESPN, all those places, they seem to think that. Now, I'm the belief that it's going to be a combination of both, and I am the belief that if somebody comes in with a good enough offer, one of these Power 5 leagues is going to be totally okay giving their rights to an Amazon, to a Paramount Plus. We did a big episode last week about this last Monday that you all were doing a great job commenting on. Loved it. Love to see your all's engagement with it. And I think that's kind of the big talking points right now, because expansion goes into television. We'll touch on television here in just a little bit with the Friday Night Lights idea. And so I think that the idea that the Big 12 get a Power 5 school, it's not totally pie in the sky, because anything can happen at this point. I would say it's unlikely, because I think the Pac-12's next TV contract, especially with USC on the rise and Oregon really pumping a lot of money into their program, like those two brands are going to be prominent. UCLA, if they can get them prominent, looks good on the television screen. Nice to see that helmet against other helmets, right? It's kind of a big conversation we're having right now. Why is Alabama versus Texas going to be so great, right? It's not because you think the score of the game is going to be really close. It's because it's going to be cool to see that helmet against that helmet? Why is Ohio State versus Notre Dame so exciting? Sure, it could be a good game. Probably, let's hope it's a good game. Not really sure, if Notre Dame's got the firepower this year to handle Ohio State. But why is that game so coveted? Why are we looking forward to it? Because those helmets are really cool. So I think the Pac-12, for that reason, it's got some good helmets, got some good jerseys, got some good brands, if you will, right now. And I think that's going to make it tougher. The ACC, I would love to see the ACC lose some teams. That television contract that they're locked into right now is horrendous. I think it's $15 million a year for some of the schools. Now, I was doing some research. The buyout is around 50. So do we think any school is going to put forward $50 million to buy themselves out of the ACC? Maybe Clemson could do it. Maybe Florida State could do it. Maybe Miami could do it. Maybe Virginia Tech could do it. Those are the brands really in the ACC. Those are the ones that are actually moving. Let me say Virginia Tech. Andy Staples did an article about the clubs that really, the teams that do move the needle. Those guys move the needle. All right. So you're in a spot where you're thinking, okay, would these schools want to leave the conference? Would it be financially worth it? I don't think it would be to join the Big 12. I wish it were. I wish that were the facts, but they're not. And so I think there is a little chance that the Big 12 adds any schools who are in the Power 5 right now. I just don't think that's possible. The schools it is possible for. Think about the ones that are not in the Power 5. Going so much today. Wow. Think about the schools that are not in the Power 5 that the Big 12 could add. So I thought about it. Mountain West, all right, and hold with me on this. Boise and UNLV, all right. Those are two schools when I look at the Mountain West and I think, I actually want those schools. Why? UNLV can get you to Vegas, all right? If you add UNLV to the conference, you can reasonably have events in Las Vegas. Now, the problem is the travel is going to be a huge pain in the ass for West Virginia, for UCF, for Cincinnati. I mean, like, not a massive pain in the ass, but it's a pretty long way to go, is Las Vegas. So UNLV is why I tossed them in there. Boise State is good enough at both basketball and football to where they actually do help your conference. Now, they would be probably towards the bottom of your conference when it comes to basketball. Look, we all know how good the Big 12 is, guys. It's, back-to-back national champions. You guys know the deal. It's a great conference when it comes to hoops. They're excited to add UCF and BYU and Cincinnati. Cincinnati and Houston will make this thing a better conference for sure. BYU is probably going to do the same. UCF will probably take some time. UNLV is a really interesting program that should be good at basketball. That's not, because their facilities out there, they play at Thomas and Mack, which is where Summer League is. They got the USA basketball facility out there. Like, UNLV is in a very desirable place, in my opinion. Now, maybe because I'm transitioning to, and I'm being this all serious, it's like I'm 25 years old. So Vegas is very appealing to me. But maybe at 8, and I've been to Vegas when I was under 21. I still loved it. I don't know how much of an attractive place it is for kids to go there. Their football program has been miserable. But I think the ability to maybe play games, obviously the new stadium there would be something that intrigues me a lot. So I don't know. I have this idea of adding UNLV to the footprint. It's a major city. You can add a feather in your cap in a way. Let me know in the comments. You guys are always very good at that. If you guys agree or disagree, I always appreciate the feedback. But UNLV, Boise, once again, does make some sense to me. It does with the success that they've had in football and basketball. That is a school that fits right in. So you got UNLV for location and potential, and then you add on Boise really just because of how good they've been. Now, once again, their travel is an issue. It's a long way to go. And can they continue to produce high-level football and do not have the Smurf turf to your conference? So I think Boise presents a very interesting test case of, hey, strong middle brand, long distance. Do you add? I think UNLV presents a very good idea of location, good brand. Do you add? In the AAC, Memphis and SMU are really the schools that I'd want to add the most if I was the Big 12. I think the important thing here for the Big 12 is if you're going to add schools, because that's why UNLV is a long shot. That's why I just tossed them in there. But like, this school needs to bring something to the table. And you can't just be adding these schools, just to add them, right? This is not a situation where you want to become the American Conference, because some people think that the Big 12 is essentially that, and they're not. They're nowhere near that. But if you're going to continue to add AAC schools, you need to make sure that the schools you add are adding value. And look, Memphis, they can be up and down with football, but the basketball on that side, Penny Hardaway with what job he's done, I know the NCAA is going to clap them pretty hard here. But playing at the FedEx Forum, like having games there, I think that's a good place to foray into. I would love to see a Big 12 tournament in Memphis at the FedEx Forum. I think that would be a fantastic atmosphere. I think people are excited to travel to new places in the new Big 12. Sure, KC is still probably your centralized spot. Dallas is still going to be a really good spot to hold your basketball tournament or hold your football championship. But I would love to see a foray into newer places, right? So I think Memphis makes some sense. I think their football and basketball are good enough to be in this league for sure. They're a little bit up and down, but I think adding Memphis in the league is intriguing in my opinion. And the other one, SMU. SMU is a natural fit because A, they're in Dallas. B, they have a lot of money, and C, Dallas is also Texas too. So there you go. And they have a natural rival. C, it will be the C in this situation. They have a natural rival coming in. That old iron skillet is still played for every single year now. Would TCU love this? I don't know, but I think SMU athletics is definitely good enough. They're definitely the right spot. And just a question here, do you want two teams from Dallas? But look, I think that would make a lot of sense. So if you pair them up with the Memphis or something of that kind of variety, you could add them to the league. Lastly, Sunbelt, ULL, or App. I don't think this is a good idea. I would not go this direction. I don't know those schools are good enough locations. App's football program is definitely good enough to be in this league. They have been so strong the other years. Look, will they be one of the best teams in the league? I don't know. I don't think so. But, that program has been good enough. You wonder what ULL becomes after Billy Napier leaves and their basketball is not that good. So I was just spitballing there on those. If you had to ask me to rank the schools in terms of likeliness, I would go with number 1, SMU because of location. Number 2, Memphis because of location. Number 3, Boise because of success and not location, but success and branding. It's a pretty good brand. And then I would go at number 4, UNLV, due to very much so location and facilities and things like that. And by the same token, when everybody has a basketball tournament out in Las Vegas. Everybody loves those tournaments out in Vegas. Maybe the Big 12 would do that one year if they added UNLV. Once again, just spitballing out ideas out here, people. It's talking season, and it's time to just say, hey, why the heck not? All right, let's take a quick break. We come back. We will discuss another question sent in by one of our listeners about Friday Night Lights and could the Big 12 pull off a Friday Night Lights type situation? Now, I think this person might have been a TV show, but I thought about it and said, hey, this might be a good idea for a game. All right. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. If you guys want to bet on the Big 12 odds for the 2022 football season, you guys can find those at BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. You go there. It's free to sign up. The interface is nice. It's sleek. It's easy to use. Go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, so I'm forgetting once again this one in. I want to say thank you to whoever it was, but this person, it was Timper. I think is his name, Timper. He said, I always wanted to see FNL with college teams. It would be perfect. And so I didn't know if he meant like a show. I assume it might have meant a show. But what if the Big 12 in their new television contract either did one of two things? So A, go the show direction and kind of make it, but they kind of do have some of those shows out there. Like there's a All or Nothing, I think, is the one that follows Notre Dame. Baylor had one, I believe, for football, or no, for basketball. They had it on ESPN Plus. ESPN SEC Network has done some of these too. Um, to make these go mainstream, you need somebody really compelling. And what I'll say, and you also need you need believable production. And so when I talk about unbelievable production, if you have not watched Last Chance U, go and watch it. It's an absolute clinic in storytelling. And look, we know we love narrative in football. This thing is a narrative genius. You know, it's narrative storytelling. It's got compelling characters. It's got Mrs. Wagner. It's got Ronald Ollie. It has got their coach, Buddy Stevens. There are so many compelling characters in that show. And then you go later on in the seasons, you get Jason Brown from Independence Community College. Like, if you're going to do the documentary type stuff, if you're going to go that direction and make it more of a television show, you need compelling characters. What I will say is, I don't think off the top of my head there has been a show about a school that's on like mainstream cable. Like I know they put them on SEC Network, but you're not seeing a whole lot of these. And so the reason why you're not seeing this is because shows about individual teams, that's stuff that you can add to a streaming platform, and ostensibly, in the minds of the TV guys and gals, give yourselves more value. It was just more stuff that people, hey, if you're a Baylor fan, you might want to go watch whatever that series was that they had on ESPN Plus. Notre Dame fan, you might want to go get Amazon Prime so you could watch. I think it was All or Nothing was what theirs was on Amazon Prime. A season, there's one that was like a season rolling with the tide, I think was a thing they did on SEC Network or ESPN Plus or whatever it was. That's stuff that people like to add to their catalogs. I'd be interested to see how one would do on a TBS or a CBS. I don't know. I think it'd be an interesting thing to do. Kind of like a Hard Knocks, I guess, if you will. But a Hard Knocks has the view of having a brand, and also everyone's tried to copy Hard Knocks. That's why this stuff is really tough to do. Now, my other idea, look, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It's just you have to find a new creative way, and maybe you get the Last Chance U people in there. But I think the appeal of Last Chance U is that they go to colleges that are really in the middle of nowhere, or in the case of the later season, they did basketball, and then they did football. It was in the middle like Sacramento. So, I mean, these shows are pretty entrenched in kind of the way they do things. It's just different, and it's tough to copy that. The other idea I had was actually doing like a game. All right. So I know there's Friday Night Football on, but maybe if you are the new Big 12, maybe, and I know Friday night's not a great TV night, but maybe as part of this, what you do is Friday Night Lights. It's a game that you guys, it's a game that they play. It's a game that they do. They put big Big 12 football games on that channel. They put Oklahoma State against Baylor. They put Texas Tech against Houston. They put TCU against Baylor. They put Cincinnati in West Virginia, which I hope turns into like Backyard Brawl 2.0. That's what I want. We're bringing the Backyard Brawl back this year. I hope that's what that rivalry turns into, crosstown fistfights. Maybe you continue that into basketball. Maybe you put Kansas versus Baylor on a Friday night. Maybe you put Oklahoma State versus, Baylor's the world, West Virginia's of the world, Cincinnati's the world. BYU versus I don't know, pick anybody in the Texas Tech on a Friday night. Maybe you go that direction. Maybe you try to reclaiming Thursday night from the NFL is going to be basically impossible. But maybe you go the Friday Night Lights direction. I think it's something interesting that TV execs should kick around. Hell, maybe I know it'd be a loss of ticket revenue or whatever, but like maybe you go to one of these big high school football stadiums and you play a Texas Tech versus a Houston. I know people would say play that thing in NRG. I don't know. We're spitballing here, but the idea of something, hey, Friday Night Lights, being creative, trying to do something different, trying to get eyeballs in your conference, I don't hate that. They need it, and that's what the Big 12 needs to try to do. Not gimmicky, not weird. Still Oklahoma versus a Baylor on a Friday night. Two teams just played for the Big 12 championship, maybe you go that direction. All right. I think it's worth kicking around if any TV company should think about this. A Friday Night Lights, because look, what is the base of the new Big 12 conference? What's the base of the Big 12 conference in general? Texas. Texas is the heart of the conference. It really is. There's no way you can doubt that. With 4 teams in one state is in the new Big 12, Texas is the heart of this league. And so maybe you kick around the idea of a Friday Night Lights kind of game or something like that. We'll hit Big 12 award stuff later in the week or next week. Get some questions about that. But thank you all for sending in your mailbag questions. I always appreciate them. Keep sending them in. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12. You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.